Okay, it is 7:01. I'm going to call the meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. First item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Heather, would you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, all members of the Board of Selectmen are here and present. Approval of the meeting minutes. They're in your packet. Hope everybody had a chance to review them. May I have a motion, please? So moved. Is there a second? Second. Made by Rick, seconded by Bob. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? These are adopted. Public participation. This is one of two opportunities for members of the public to address the Board of Selectmen. I'll first ask if there's anybody here in the room who would like to address the board, and then provide anybody who's with us online with the same opportunity. Is there anybody here who would like to address the Board of Selectmen? Asking a second time?
Maybe I can.
Don't feel pressured.
I'll squeeze it in.
Go ahead. Name and address, please.
Paul Anderson, 89 Main Street, Broadbrook. Still looking for a calendar on the community center for events.
Oh,
We don't have one. Thank you.
thank you. Any other comments? Any other comments? Any other comments? Is there anybody online who would like to address the members of the Board of Selectmen? Hearing none, there will be another opportunity later in the meeting. Why you bring multiple pens to a meeting? Okay, we don't have any board and commission resignations or appointments or reappointments. So that brings us to old business, which is a discussion of the establishment of America 250 committee. So municipalities, towns and cities all over the country are forming these in commemoration of the country's 250th anniversary. There is an organization, I'm not sure what I'm not sure where it comes from, but there is an organization that is asking us to do the same. And this is a resolution that I borrowed from another town and formatted it to East Windsor. We have had conversations with the Historical Society about what their plans are. So I'm going to draw your attention to page 2, section 2, which is members, terms, representation, and officers. We could move forward with this as drafted. We could move forward with this and instead of having the members laid out the way they are in the draft, designate the members of the Historical Society to be East Windsor's 250th committee. Or we could not move forward with this and work in tandem with what the Historical Society is already doing, what they have in the works. If you turn to the third page, you get a little bit of a peek about what they had done to point out Israel Bissell's ride. And then the last page are notes about what they're planning to do so far for the 250th. So before we move on, Mr. Hunt, do you want to walk us through what the Historical Society is thinking about so far?
Parade. Happening, people next door. So I'm thinking over here, the Broadbrook Fire Department with the fire patrol, and they would be following the horse. And set up different starts next or not yet. Part of it. We'll have advancements to I figure down the start at the Horse Road, down Wells Road, to Scannick Road to the museum, Well, sure, you can go around the island there, possibly. Any floats that are in the parade will continue down, uh, Cemetery Road. And go on the back way, which could probably put out back and feel here. But, in front of parades that have the horse and all that stuff, like the trouble, it's farther back around to the front of the museum from a flagpole. Presentation there. That's about as far as I got so far, but, I'm trying to teach, some other. Living in, not quite in front, but they're, reenactment. Trying to get a hold of those guys. I might have, see if I can get a hold of reenactment.
Yeah, they're gonna have a busy year.
Yeah.
That, you had talked about doing a parade and you doing that in tandem with the Historical Society's ice cream social for the day. I recall when we met in my office, we also talked about, maybe organizing somebody to do, a lecture at another point in time on Israel Bissell or Connecticut's role in the revolution. And we had another, we had also talked about doing a reenactment of the reading of the Declaration at a point in time. So you guys have been working on this.
Oh, that's fine.
Well, all right, that's embarrassing. Wonder what that was going to look up with operation, but so you guys have been working on this for a little while. We're a little bit late in the game in terms of setting this up. So I would like to consider doing either designating the Historical Society to be the town's 250th committee, which if we designate the members of the society, anybody who wants to participate in it can simply become a member of the society for, I believe it's a $10 annual fee. And then they can participate however they choose. The alternate is for the town not to do anything and support what the Historical Society is doing, not to do anything officially and support what the Historical Society is doing. But I think if we move to set up a committee at, we're sitting here January 15th, I think that's a little late. So I would favor the second option followed by the third option. Are there any other comments, questions for Mike, suggestions?
If you set up a committee on a celebration like this, wouldn't you want to include various groups around town, for example, arts and culture? I remember when the town's 250th anniversary was going on, that my father-in-law participated in a beard growing contest for that. And I remember there, believe it or not, there were lots and lots of activities. That was back in the 70s.
So that's a detail I omitted from, or I forgot to reflect, but you talked about reaching out to other community groups. Who all are you thinking about engaging with?
There's people that, not around too. It's a lot of. Charlie Museum. Fire departments, you got churches, churches, some scan church, good houses.
Skylark Airport?
So it's, people that they're.
While he's looking for that, I was thinking, since you mentioned other commissions, I was wondering if the Veterans Commission would want to do some sort of recognition of the Revolutionary War veterans in town. There's a number of them, right?
Yeah, we talked about that too. It's actually listed, Mike pointed out, it's listed in the East Windsor Through the Years book.
I was just looking through that the other day.
Daughters of America. They were in a church at one time, some years back. And it's mostly, all the ancient families that were in East Windsor belonged. Possibly to show up. Members of that group.
My understanding, Jonathan Edwards was a resident at one time. And if that's the case, a reenactment of his sermon, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, might be an appropriate event during that celebration as well.
He lived in South Windsor, I think, which was East Windsor at the time.
Well, East Windsor Hill, which, we were all one community
Yeah.
then, so. And he gave the sermon in Enfield.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. That sermon was in the Congregational Church in Enfield. It should be an exciting year. And it should be something we take very seriously. And I'd like to see it expanded even to where we have some discussions on what it means to live in a democracy. Pretty timely right now. What does it mean to live in a democracy? What does it mean to have freedoms? What does it mean to not fear going out on the street to express your opinion? I'd like to see a committee appointed that includes the Historical Society.
Okay.
So just so I'm understanding, we could either assign them to this section 2, or we could have a group that works in conjunction with them. Are those the two that you were suggesting?
Right. Or we could, the third option would be that we don't do anything from an official government perspective, but support the things that they're going to do. And one of the things I was in that regard is, if they're going to do something that, gets towards dark, then the town considers paying for fireworks or something in that regard.
Right. How do you guys feel about handling it all? Do you think that you want to do that yourselves, or do you want the assistance of?
I kind of like to maybe work with the town too. Maybe like they work in conjunction with
Okay.
on your panel. Groups or
Mhm.
We could appoint the Historical Society and other members.
Yeah, that was my second solution.
Okay, and other members. I like that.
I think that idea is good, except that I would add a liaison, Rich, to that board.
Was that a comma or were you designating comma or parentheses?
Just to like round up some of the other commissions and stuff and just, be kind of a clearinghouse of information back and forth between us and them. But I think, if we're going to do anything officially, it's kind of already too late to make a plan and include stuff in a budget, right? So it's not like we could really get like big, or things that are costly, I guess I should say, because we don't even know, we don't have that in this year's budget.
Well, I think we could probably do, like, maybe not us, but there could be some fundraising or some kind of donations or something like that I would imagine that they could to work on.
That's where I'm concerned they're running out of time, because with the 250th anniversary that we did, that was a 2 or 3 year proposition.
What's the time frame that are we all over
This year.
a certain period of time, or are we pinpointing a date that we're doing the stuff?
They were looking at doing their parade option and the ice cream social on June 27th,
Okay,
which is close to when the declaration was actually signed.
okay.
It was signed between July 2nd and August 2nd. So somewhere in that window, would be the most appropriate. But if you want to do something in the fall and, you know, I mean, there's probably a battle somewhere.
Well, I think June is probably safer. I think you start heading into July and August. You've got a lot of people who are probably going to be out of town and may not be able to participate or be a part of it. And to Rick's point, like, I understand what you're saying about that. I would really strongly suggest we not make this a political thing. So although I do think like there's a lot going on and I do think like some things need to be said or not said, but I think that this should be about this rather than sounded to me like you were trying to go in a different direction. And I respect that, but I think that this should be something different, in my opinion.
Right.
In reading through this, the only other thought I had was, why isn't there a budget for it?
Because we didn't start this in January of last year.
I know, but is there not a way we could appropriate some funds for?
We could, yeah.
I think we should.
I think we should.
So first we would need to authorize whatever we're gonna do. Then we'll talk about, you know, what if any type of a budget you want to get them. We don't have any contingency funds left, so it is an added appropriation.
About Jason, about the permit. For the state highway.
Oh, yeah, that was just, we would work with the police department on it.
Before
And state roads too.
we should plan for shutting them down
Mhm.
safely as well.
Yeah.
Understood.
They'd be state roads too that are impacted.
Just move the signs that they have out.
What would be the right motion to incorporate, just that we're going to incorporate both the, how do you want the motion to be read if we're incorporating it?
Well, yeah, we need to amend section 2 to do what it is that you guys wanted. to do.
Okay. Do you want to? Motion?
I'll offer an amendment to section 2, that the Board of Selectmen may appoint such members as it deems appropriate.
So I would just be changing the first sentence, replacing the first sentence with what you just said, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now, if you want to do an appropriation for that, how much of a budget do you want to spend?
What do you anticipate, a good, like, what do you anticipate cost to be? For things that you are thinking of?
Yeah, I would say that.
Why don't we wait on it
Put
then?
that committee together and let them, that'd be the first thing to do is figure out a ballpark figure of what.
I think that would be appropriate.
so I'll move we adopt the resolution as presented, as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving right on. All right. Veterans tax exemptions. So you'll recall that we tabled these last time. There was, what's that? There was some back and forth with the assessors and with the town council about getting the drafting the way they want it to. The proposed final draft is in front of you. Helen, do you want to walk through anything in particular here?
I do have summary of the 5 different parts that would be in the ordinance that we're looking to pass.
Thank you.
If you want, because I just did it today. It just quickly goes through each part. A little bit of background we talked about last time I was here last month. Originally, the state passed legislation that took effect in 2024 grand list. There were a lot of things that were missing. And they came back, revised it, and made the parts that were omitted local options. So the first one would allow a local option that exempts the dwelling of veterans who are considered permanently and totally disabled by reason of unemployability through the VA. So, the other one would be a local option to allow surviving spouses whose veteran spouse had passed away prior to the October 1st, 24 date of the original bill and after January 1 of 13. Originally, when I was here last month, it was going to be a later date. We did some more research and did find we do have someone that would be eligible whose spouse passed away in 2013. So that's why we changed that date. We also want to allow a local option to exempt the dwelling of Gold Star spouses, spouses whose military person were killed in action. Also, a local option that per the state statute, this one has income limits. We actually don't have anybody in town right now that falls under this, but it's for parents, spouses, or minor children of a service person killed in action. And the last one would wrap into the one that allows the exemption for a dwelling and would let us exempt also the building lot. So if they own more than 2 acres of land, they would not get an exemption on all their land. It would only be on the building lot. So we've wrapped up all 5 of these into one ordinance, which I believe is attached to your agenda.
Questions or comments?
Fabulous idea.
May I have a motion?
Make a motion to, do we have to do these separate or?
No, it's one
No.
ordinance.
Okay, I just saw the section 1 and 2. I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance regarding the veterans, surviving spouses, children and parents. Tax exception, is that, how do you want it read? I'm just reading the top part here. Is that all right? Or just the veterans?
So you move, I would
motion
say, move to approve, read the title of the ordinance
Yep.
and then forward it.
Oh, okay. I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance, an ordinance concerning property tax exemptions for certain disabled veterans, surviving spouses and children, and parents of children killed in action.
Second.
And forward it to town meeting.
And forwarded town.
Been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That town meeting will be on February 5th. Chief Carl, Deputy Chief Murphy, who's taking point here? Good evening, Deputy. How are you?
Oh, be so good.
This is a new USB drive. Thank you. Take a second, let pull up. Yeah, I'm not, I just found my USB drive. Uh, so I have shift notes, First Amendment. Oh, here we go. There you go. All right, folks, I'm going to give an overview on automated speed cameras. Kind of the premise of this is we do have 3 out of 5 new Board of Selectmen members. Chief Carl previously presented something similar. I put a little bit of updated information because these have now been in effect a little longer here in the state. Full disclosure, before we go any further than this is not an advocacy for or against these. This is for informational purposes. Again, going on the whole idea of transparency, Chief Carl and I have already previously met as a fact finding with 2 different companies just to kind of get a sense of how these are working, what they're looking like. One of the companies was very poor. The vendor was not something we were remotely interested in. The other one was pretty impressive, and they're being used quite a bit throughout the state. So I'll cover that a little bit. I'm not going to get into the specifics of nomenclature, the science behind it, because each device and each vendor has a different type of enforcement they use. But one thing I can do is talk of the generalization. And at the end, I'll answer whatever questions I can for you. And if it's something I can't answer, I'll certainly defer to my boss or give you a follow-up information. I can reach out to some of these vendors. So on that note, this started off back in 2023. So for the next slide, please. This is a House Bill 1597. It was automatic traffic enforcement safety device, ATESD. You'll see that a little bit in the information. And I'm sorry for hiding behind the podium here. I can't see that for squat. That's why I have my notes over here. So basically what this said is Governor Lamont signed this bill into law. And it says, an act implementing the recommendation of Vision Zero Council. Vision Zero is something for basically a initiative being done across the state. They're trying to dramatically reduce highway deaths. And that's being wrapped into people distracted driving, slowing folks down, a whole different bunch of campaigns. You see those. And part of that is implementing these traffic cameras. In simple terms, municipalities will now allow and apply for the Connecticut Department of Transportation, who basically is the driver of all of this, for automatic traffic enforcement program for their city or town. Automatic traffic enforcement typically refers to speed cameras, red light cameras, and school zone safety cameras. For all the purposes of this informational session this evening, I'm pretty much going to be concentrating more so on speed cameras. So next slide, please. So what's the legislation? What's in it? It says municipalities may authorize the use of automated traffic enforcement safety devices at locations within school zones, pedestrian safety zones, other places in such municipality, provided the municipality adopts an ordinance in accordance with the provisions. We do not have an ordinance. We have 0 on the books. What I gave the Board of Selectmen here is copies of Winstead's new ordinance. They actually just passed it 2 nights ago. If you look at it, it's pretty generic. It's a lot of boilerplate language, and a lot of it is borrowed language from the state statute itself. So for any of this to ever get off the ground, obviously that would take a town vote. It would take consensus from the town. It would take an ordinance. And then there is a myriad of boxes that need to be checked by Chief Carl, myself, and the police commission as a local traffic authority to present this to the DOT. I don't want to get ahead of my skis. I'll cover that shortly. But there's a lot that goes into that. Again, so the ordinance basically governs how this is done. And the locations for such devices are identified in the plan approved by the DOT as well. So again, we can't just go
arbitrarily place these wherever we want. We would have to provide this information to the DOT. They would have to agree with it, and then those vendors would go in those locations. Next, sir, please. So what would East Windsor potentially use them for? Essentially, what we've considered and at least have considered from a law enforcement standpoint is the speed enforcement. They're allowed by state and city ordinance, as we discussed. They're basically put in the highway zones under 45, school zones, pedestrian safety zones, and DOT approved zones. So if we have an area which we deem to be a high liability or a frequent area, if anyone's been in the town more than 20 minutes, you know Newberry Road is the biggest complaint for speeding we have. We could detail officers out there 24/7 with lights on the side and someone's still going to zip by at 60 miles an hour. So we would be able to provide the amount of enforcement we've done. There has been a fatal in that road as well. At the end of that intersection, there's been bad accidents. That would be a prime area where they would look at and they would probably approve without a bat of an eye. But again, we just cannot arbitrarily, even as the LTA, the local traffic authority, we still would need to get approval for that. The way that these work, and I'll get into that, essentially, whatever vendor you use, it's a civil fine. The first 30 days of implementation of these devices in any town, it's basically you get sent a written warning. It's saying, hey, this is your one get out of jail free card for speeding in the area. After 30 days lapse, you're going to be mailed a fine. The first fine is $50, the second is $75, and the subsequent offenses are $75. They are civil fines. So a lot of people have confused this. And again, without doing a deep dive, you might not know. If an officer cuts you a ticket for a infraction, not a misdemeanor summons, meaning a payable fine, that goes through the centralized infraction bureau at the local courts. This is not that. That's essentially goes through the criminal justice system. And essentially, if you did not pay a handwritten or a generated computer ticket from an officer doing speed enforcement or whatever enforcement, that could actually lead up to a warrant for failure to pay or plea. I know that because I've arrested people on them in my career. This is a civil fine. So again, it doesn't go against your license points. It doesn't get notified of your insurance. So that's kind of the difference here as well. Next, sir, please. So how are the locations approved and selected? Again, they look at similar what we do here in the police department for where we deploy our officers. Crash history, serious fatal injury. This one's interesting. It would also be applicable in our town. This is much more applicable in larger cities, but local poverty rate, vehicles per residence, average daily vehicle count, compliance with traffic reporting, roadway geometry, prescribed methodology, uniform enforcement rules, and stringent post-program reporting. So again, there are a lot of factors as to where they go into. You know, we can't just say, hey, we're going to put one on Rye Street in this area of Rye. We would have to have some of this information to basically qualify our rationale for that. Next slide, please. So how the process works. This is all pretty similar regardless of vendor. One of the vendors we spoke to, SiteStream, not to let the cat out of the bag. We haven't gone to any kind of official sitting down and discussing numbers with anybody, but some of them are different. You go through a device. Some of the devices are mobile, which means they can move them from one area to the other. Others are fixed. Most of the ones that are most successful are fixed. They capture a license plate. Some vendors capture a whole vehicle. Others get an operator. SiteStream itself, and they do this more so because to get contested by people for, violating someone's privacy in their car, et cetera, just grabs your license plate. For a lot of folks who may or may not understand this, license plates are not subject to like a search warrant or freedom. If you are driving, you can have an officer run your plate. You don't need reasonable suspicion. You don't need probable cause. Officers do that for the sense of traffic safety, determining who has a warrant, who has suspended licenses. Matter of fact, we could be here tonight, one of our East Windsor Police Departments with a plate reader could drive through the back lot and would be recording everyone's information. So there is no privacy when it comes to the plates. This, however, just hones in on that. So that company gets that information, HB 12345. Then they get that information, they upload it through their server, and they look at that data. and they run something through NLEDS. It's the National Law Enforcement Telecommunications System. They have the same information that we have to verify, okay, this is a 2021 blue Chevy Silverado pickup truck. It's registered to, John Taylor of 123 Main Street. What they would do then is send that information to the police department. We would designate either an officer or somebody as an employee of the East Windsor Police Department to confirm that information. So they just don't randomly send the ticket. We would have to look at that because we would try to pair who is the owner of that vehicle. So if that vehicle comes back registered to that person, then it comes back, it's registered to that vehicle. We then send that back to the company, who in turn sends that citation to that operator within a week or two. What happens after that is then the company, and it changes the amount of the financial impact, but most companies are splitting the fines, the revenue with the town. Half of which goes to their company, half of which goes to the town. And I'll touch a little bit on what happens with that revenue and how it can be used. It's not going into the general fund. It's not something that could be used to backfill, hot air balloon festival. It's something that's specific for traffic enforcement, traffic education. And the interesting part about all of these vendors is it's essentially it's cost neutral to the towns. We're not paying for any of these. And there's a whole, and I'll go into a little bit of why we're using them, but it's not costing us a dime from the taxpayers' money. Even to the fact if we had to hire an officer, like for example, they may send us 500 violations in a week that we need to verify. We don't have the manpower to take someone offline to do this. We would probably hire an officer on overtime and say, hey, here's your shift for 8 hours today. Those funds are used to pay for that officer. So again, it's not coming out of the taxpayer's back pocket. Next one, sir. So the appeals. This would look different based on the ordinance, how it's drafted up and how the town, if the town ever did approve this, how it would look, but appeals would be specifically explained through a town ordinance. Typically, what's happening though, into the towns that already have these, they assign somebody who has like a hearing officer. So I can speak to, when I worked in the city of New Britain, we had a lot of ordinances. We had an ordinance for everything. And whether it was a parking ticket, to your grass being too high, to the fact that you parked too close to a curb, you could get a citation issued to you and you could go to town hall. There was one designated person who would, hear you out. Larger city, 78, 80,000 people, that person worked Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. Other towns now specific for this are assigning somebody probably once a week for a number of hours. You can come in, you can appeal it. Most people are not appealing these tickets because you kind of know when you're going over the speed limit and you're getting that ticket, but a lot of people are not. But again, that is the option. That is generally spelled out in the ordinance, how that would be kind of contested. Next, sir, please. So the ATESD's plan checklist for submission to OSTA. OSTA is the Office of the State Traffic Administration, which is essentially a branch of the DOT. For these to actually go into effect in a municipality or a town, the requirements are such. You have to have a copy of an ordinance first. So you can't just arbitrarily say, we're going to put these up and then retro, we're going to come up with an ordinance. You have to have the horse before the cart. We need to come up with an ordinance. Also, prior to that, we would need prior authorization and approval from the town that we're going to move forward with this. So a copy of the notice of the public hearing conducted, copy of the minutes of the meeting at which the municipality's legislative body or board of selectmen voted to approve these, and a copy of the comprehensive safety traffic action plan. So essentially, the net zero, what we're doing to kind of fold that into how we're part of that as well. On top of that, written justification with supporting documentations explaining how and why this was selected for installation at each location. So essentially, if we were going to use 2 or 3, or if we were going to go 5 in town, why we needed that many, why we want them, and what we needed them there for, as well as coming back with that empirical data. One of the things, if you folks drive through town, you see, on we have our speed trailer, you see it blinking when you go by, or sometimes you see the signs that just show the speed. Sometimes you'll see the signs that you see nothing on at all. we're gathering data, and we do that on a regular basis. Because if you ask anybody in any town, anywhere USA, it's Daytona 500 wherever they live. I never discount somebody's feeling on that, but generally we want to be able to say, okay, hey, maybe you do have a problem here. So we generally rely on what's basically referred to as like the 85th percentile. Are people going within this certain amount, this high over? We expect people to be doing 3 to 4 over. When people are doing consistently 10 to 12 over, we do have a problem there. We're going to redirect our resources there. We're going to also maybe look at traffic calming measures. We might be talking with DPW and the select board of saying, hey, I think we need to re-engineer this road because this is a mess. Or even change the speeds. They're doing that. A lot of these roads were built in the 40s and 50s when cars were smaller, when people were going slower and they weren't capable of going that fast. So there's a lot that goes behind this. I don't want to dogpile this, folks. Sir, can you give me the next couple there? So you continue, again, if we wanted this, explain why we need them, crash history, data, a scaled roadway plan, what we're going to be doing with those. Next, please. Additional requirements. One of them is if we want to put them near a traffic control signal, you need a whole nother laundry list of rationale why you want to put them there, right? Because people might speed up for red lights, people might be slowing down for them. And additionally with the school zones, if I can, next one, please. School zones, you definitely need more information. And that would probably be one of our primary areas where we'd want to put these in town, near our schools. And the pedestrian safety zone. So, sir, can you go back up to the frequently asked questions section, please? So again, I just put that in there. I would be talking for another 20 minutes. The whole point of me putting that in there, and that came right off the state website from the DOT. It basically is there are a lot of parameters to get these in place. What we need to do as a municipality, what we need to do as a law enforcement agency, and information we need to provide. Now, I took information from several of the vendors. Again, full transparency, Chief Carl and I, first Selectmen, sat down with at least 2 different vendors, got information from them. I begged, borrowed, and stealed a whole lot of their frequently asked questions. I also got I asked some of these from some of the area chiefs I've been conversing with. People are asking how long it takes once a contract is signed. It's typically 16 weeks. So ideally, Town of East Windsor approves, hey, we want to move forward with this. Hey, we've come up with this ordinance. Everything is buttoned up and we've picked a vendor, whether it's, Cameras USA, I'm just making that number up. We sign a contract. They're usually within 4 months. They're on the road and they're operational as well. What kind of public awareness? These wouldn't be going out just arbitrarily as an I gotcha. We would be provided, most of the vendors provide you with literature. They give you a lot of the social media stuff, they themselves do a social media blast, and we would have physical stuff to hand out to people as well. So it's not a surprise, hey, in the next several months, these are going to be on 140. It's going to be on Newberry. It's going to be on Rye Street. We're going to put them back on Route 5 in front of the high school. Just throwing those out there arbitrarily, but those are all hot spots where we would probably look into if we were to do that. How are the citations are paid? How can I tell you this? Well, I can tell you that Thomas Murphy, my 19-year-old son, got one of these tickets in Middletown about 2 months ago. And it just so happened that the mail came into Mr. Benjamin Murphy because his SUV is registered to me. It comes in the form of a basically piece of paper. There's a QR code, give a picture, and it says, this is when we got you, and what say you? And I said, here you go, son, take your phone out. I'm glad you're working, though you can pay your tickets. $63 later, he's not doing so. So you can pay them online. You can use a credit card, a debit card. You can actually write a personal check to the companies as well. That's basically universal for whatever. But it's that easy, and then that goes forward with that.
You can't forward it to Ben Murphy?
So that's it. Good question, sir. In some of the vendors, you are able to say like, hey, you were using my truck. I could change that over to you and you'd be able to get it that way. So you're not saddled with it. But essentially, we have statute in Connecticut, general statutes, basically vicarious liability by owner liability. So if I'm out driving around in Miss Spencer's vehicle and I'm doing donuts somewhere and I left and I did a whole bunch of damage and she didn't want to give me up, by law, like, you're responsible because it's your vehicle. I would never do such, but, that's essentially the way this works. The vehicle's registered to that person. They're the one getting the summons or the citation back. The warning period is 30 days. They do not affect insurance or they get points on your license. So again, it's a civil fine. Are there any signs posted? The signs are posted well before. So if people are coming into town residents are eventually going to know where they are. And I'll get to a little bit how this impacts town residents as opposed to out of town residents. There's very clear signage of where these are. So people know there, so your affirmative defense is, oh, I didn't know that these were here. No, there was several hundred yards of signs beforehand to show where they were coming. Are there late fees? No. So basically, you are expected to pay the fine, but they don't tack on anymore through the company. And what's the trigger speed? It's 10 miles per hour and above. That's universal for everyone. That's actually in the state statute. So we're not hitting anybody for doing a 33 and a 25. It's anything 10 miles per hour or above. I threw this in here because I think this is important for some anecdotal evidence. Speaking with SiteStream, again, one of the vendors we did sit with, generally what they found with all their customers so far, and they have a pretty robust number of customers in the state, 3% of the violators after initial implementation are in-town residents. 97% are out-of-town residents. As most of you know, 140 for us is a cut through, right? Those are people coming down from Ellington, they're coming up from South Windsor, Enfield, et cetera. So the vast majority of people in town, particularly if they're living in here, they know, hey, I got to slow down on this road. And that's essentially like where my son plays golf in Middletown, he drives slow down that road now. So that's where people get accustomed to it. So this isn't going to be hanging over the head of our residents. This is for the people commuting and going through saying, hey, slow down in our town. And speaking with the Middletown chief, this is the most important factor. If you take anything away from this informational session, I found this incredibly important. They basically made their own determination that anything over 20 miles per hour in an area, they're considering that reckless driving. They've had a drop of 94% since they started doing this in the monitored areas, meaning in the last 6 months, and they've been live, Middletown's been live on this for 6 months with 3 cameras. In those areas where they're going, the people going under 20 miles per hour, it's dropped. Over 20 miles per hour has dropped 94%. So they are effective. People know they're there. It's deterrence. They're going to slow down. So next, sir, please. So again, this is not a sales pitch. This is, Chief and I are essentially, we're stewards of the community. We're kind of agnostic. I'm just giving you, these are things that considerations for how this would, I guess, benefit our town. First and foremost, it serves as a force multiplier. The installation of these cameras in documented, verified, and data-supported speeding areas allows enforcement to occur 24/7. So, as I mentioned, Newberry Road. Newberry is a busy road. They go fast. We have done a lot of enforcement there on a regular basis. Officers are shooting radar, going there for et cetera. If we did have one in that area, it's 24/7, and that is something that's well documented, verified, and supported. The second aspect of that is allows officers the autonomy to focus and direct enforcement on other areas whenever proactive needs take priority in town. Traffic is important. A couple of years ago, thefts were upticked across the state. I don't want an officer sitting on the side of the road shooting laser if someone's breaking into garages and trying to steal cars, right? Both are equally awful, both are equally important to our community. If we have a mechanism to basically address some of the speeding stuff, which these cameras are, we allow officers to go elsewhere. And it's not just speeding. If you guys have been following a lot of the stuff we've been doing on social media, we've been doing a lot of school bus traffic enforcement. We're going out there. I hear officers every day going out there, following cars, stopping school buses. That allows them to do that so they're not just being able to do the traffic. But East Windsor has 27 square miles. Our minimum is 3 officers. I'd love to say we had 5 at all time. That 3 includes that 1 supervisor. So for 27 square miles in our box in which we all live and operate, we have 3 cops on the road. And if 2 guys are at a domestic and somebody else is maybe tied up on the call, Nobody's doing that enforcement. This allows that to be able to take place and still slows people down. So just something to consider. Officers at East Windsor Police Department continue to increase their proactivity in traffic violations still occur. So prior to this taking place, Lieutenant Lieb did a yearly audit for me. It's basically one of our SOPs to kind of keep track of the work that the guys and girls are doing of our police department. In 2024, they stopped 3,754 cars for motor vehicle violations. Just this past year, they stopped 4,895,000. So in the last 2+ years, our traffic enforcement has increased near 200% in this town. The younger aggressive officers are going out doing motor vehicle enforcement. That's not correlated, that's not consistent with issuing fines either. It's stopping people for bad driving. Our complaints are down, our use of force is down, but our proactivity is up. This allows officers to continue to go out there and do this proactive work and educate folks saying, hey, you're in a school zone. You probably shouldn't be ripping through here at 50 miles per hour because, by the way, the school buses are coming up in 2 minutes to pick up the kids. So not having a dedicated traffic officer. Chief Carl and I are the repository for complaints in the town. As a matter of fact, with our new website, if you guys haven't seen it, it's absolutely fantastic. But if you have, it has a portal for traffic complaints. They all come directly to my desk. And it's any complaint you want, but 95% are traffic. That is a big thing here in our town. We would love to have dedicated traffic personnel, and as the town grows, maybe that's something we see in the future. I hope so, but this again, right now, is something that helps us alleviate some of those issues. The traffic's also, cameras serve as a deterrent. If people know that they're in the area, they're going to slow down. Even if it's not on that said road, the feeder roads, you may not know that coming in from Enfield or South Windsor, they're going to slow down in the area, or just knowing that they're in the area of East Windsor, it slows folks down. Coinciding with those slower roads, speeds, it's going to ultimately reduce accidents and collisions that occur in and around those areas. If approved, again, one of the things we'd first recommend, putting them near the schools. That's our most valuable resource, our kids. Not to mention, and not to deter the students, the faculty, or the parents, but that's something we want to slow people down around our school zones as well. And most of these vendors, which is pretty important to keep in mind here too, it's not only net zero buying, but the upkeep is on them as well. So if they have to, something that's damaged, if it's something that a battery dies, somebody vandalizes one gets run over, or we get tired of having one, let's say after 2 years on 140 and we want to move it to Tromley Road heading towards the high school, they would relocate that. So again, this stuff is not only cost neutral, but they're responsible for that upkeep. Last one, sir, please. And I put this at the end because this isn't something to be a money grab. It shouldn't be. That's well lower on everything else in priority. But there is a financial impact to this. I spoke at length this morning with Eric Costa, he's the chief of Middletown. They have had this in effect for 6 months in their town, and they only have 3 cameras. They have netted a revenue already in 6 months of $1.9 million. For context, one of the monitored roads which they use, Washington Street, has approximately 200,000 vehicles pass through weekly. Here on Route 140, we have approximately 70,000. And if we were to have, let's say, 4 or 5 cameras, we would be capturing a lot of people going through. So again, this is not only beneficial for slowing people down, and we saw their information about reducing people from the reckless driving, they're bringing in an awful lot of those monies. What Middletown does is that revenue is deposited into a dedicated line and is established specifically for those funds. The way that this has been set up through the state, revenue brought in cannot be used for arbitrary things. It's within the DOT guidelines. It funds education, training, infrastructure, and road safety. And again, that can also backfill if we needed to hire somebody to do some of the vetting of the information. So if this was ever considered and approved, the specifics on financial destination, allocation, and oversight would be determined probably by the Board of Selectmen and or Board of Finance. But that's the overview I got for you folks. So I will open the floor to any questions, and again, I will answer whatever I can.
That was excellent.
Mr. Foster, Mike.
Questions or comments for Deputy Chief Murphy?
If so.
Go right ahead.
So let's see if I can remember them all now. So the infrastructure, the revenue being used for, is that generally infrastructure like road improvements, pedestrian safety improvements, that type of stuff.
Yes.
And I guess some of my things are just comments that and I guess I would say to start out that I'm generally thinking of this positively. I do have some concerns and some of them are pretty serious. But so to start with the less serious ones, I went through that Washington Street one and it's obvious. You're going through a speed zone. It tells you what the ticket limit is, right? If you want the ticket, this is how fast you go. If you don't, this is how fast you go. It's pretty obvious, not a problem. But I did notice it's signs everywhere. It's kind of a mess, right? And
Still got 1.9.
it's amazing that people get caught because it's obnoxious the amount of signage is there.
Yeah.
And I can't say I really like that. And I picture that if that was all over the town on some of our roads being rural roads, that I'm not sure. I would want to tone down the signage as much as possible. I know there's a limit that you have to let people know they're going to get a ticket, but that's obnoxious there. And great. There's no excuse if you get a ticket, right? But so then more seriously though, as always with any of these technology things, I'm concerned about where the data is, who has access to the data, what they can do with the data, how easy it is to abuse the data. And in this case, I'm very concerned with the fact that, and I'm not sure it's fixable. And that's I think a lot of this things could be fixable in the ordinance, but this one thing, the fact that it's going to inlets, right? The feds have access to that. And currently right now, I have to be honest, I do not trust the federal government to not misuse data against its citizens. And so, yes, it's obscured to some extent, but if you have some of the pieces of the information from somewhere else and you add these pieces of information in, you could get enough to identify somebody easily, right? And so I'm concerned currently, of putting people's data out there where it could be used against them with nothing to do with traffic safety. So that's my main concern. And that one, I think, is the hardest one to fix because the law says it goes, or these guys are all using NLETs because it's a great database that's already set up for this and, works with others.
So from the police department standpoint, we don't retain anybody's information. We verify basically through almost the same portals from ours, but we're going to probably be going through Collect and NCIC, and then we're kicking that back. I guess I don't disagree with you in any capacity. I guess the rebuttal I would say is there are fixed license plate readers in almost every town now. We don't have them, but our officers have the license plate readers. Your information's getting brought up regardless of when you're driving. There's no privacy in regards to, and I think that's kind of comes with when you register a vehicle, right? The government already has that. We're not allowed to block our license plates. We can't do it when we're going through a toll. But that information is already being retained and it's being probably processed and grabbed 100 times a day, whether we know it or not. When I'm driving down 91 on home today, my license plate's getting grabbed through every one of those DOT cameras that are watching me all the way from East Windsor until I pull into the driveway. Yeah, not the, so, no, and I get that.
You can shut up. And I get that, your license plate is right out there in public. You're driving around with everything, but the amount of surveillance, and I don't think that people understand currently, like what you just said, the amount of surveillance is already going on. And this is another way of legalizing that and putting that information in a database. And it's another peg to be able to locate somebody. And there's a lot of good reasons why we would want to locate somebody, right? There's a whole bunch of different things, but this specifically, we're going to approve it because we want to improve traffic safety in our town. That's all we want the data used for. But once it goes to NLETs, we have no say, right? There's no safety there for us. And I don't think there's any way in this ordinance that we could fix that. That's my biggest concern. The rest of it, I think, if we did some careful consideration, we could fix.
Wouldn't have any other way of confirming the validity of the license plate because they would need to make.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's to make this work. You're just giving away the store with no controls whatsoever.
Again, and I guess the other side of the coin is if I have an officer designated on the side of the road running their LPR, they're getting your information anyways. It's not being done automatically. And that information is being run, it's being cataloged. It's going there anyway. Again, I can tell you in my 24 years of being a cop, many of my good arrests just started by running a plate, I'm like, well, that doesn't belong to that car. I'm gonna pull this guy over and see what's what. But you're not wrong. I just, again, Chief Carl said, and we were talking about this earlier today, I think it's one of the things that's going to be coming. It's going to be in all jurisdictions. It's
The horse is already out of the
you
barn
know,
to a large extent.
Yeah.
But I still, it is a concern for me. Then the other thing, I think my last thing that I would bring up is, so you recently, you had heads up officer on a traffic stop, big drug bust, right? Like that person in the loop, AI, any kind of technology can never be, like, what are your feelings on, this town, like if you put one out on Newberry Road, then Rockville Road wants one, Rye Street wants two, Trombley Road wants one. Everybody wants them. They're all over the place. Now, maybe we're not doing the stops that are, in my mind, getting the more important violations,
I think the reason, I guess, symptom for that is the DOT's rationale of where we put them in the first place. Meaning, we might have somebody who calls from Arbitrary Road, Norton Road, hey, we want them over here. Well, yeah, but it's much more needed here because we have much more data support here on Rye Street or on 140. We know like 140 people speed. We know that that's a bad intersection. It's like the speed bumps. Everybody wants a speed bump. Once you let the witch in the door, you can't get her out of the house, right? And it's a bad idea regardless. But again, to put one of them into certain areas, you have to meet those metrics in the first place. So people can ask, but if we don't have the data to support that, the DOT is going to say no, because they're essentially, and we have to approve it as the local traffic authority, and then the DOT has the final say regardless. So we might have that, but again, I would still always encourage anybody, if you have a pressing issue in your town area of where you're having speeding or stop signs or people, driving recklessly, we are very responsive. That we actually have a mechanism in the police department to address that, and the lieutenants keep track of that. But that wouldn't supplement it. I think these cameras would give us more time to focus on those because we already have identified our 3 to 5 hotspot areas. And eventually, again, once we quell the traffic, that's when we look to get back and go, hey, maybe we need to go back to the DOT in 2030 and say, hey, we want to move these here now. What say you? So.
I had one more thing, but it just dropped out of my mind. So I'm gonna call it there. And I'll just recap by saying I have that one real kind of serious concern that I got to wrap my head around, but the rest of this I think we can work on and work out. And I'm fairly positive about it, I would say, generally speaking. That's it for me.
Continuing with privacy, the company, when it receives the data, are there restrictions on what they're able to do with that data? And how is that controlled?
So they actually have, it depends on the company, but I know like SiteStream we spoke to, they basically have a whole separate contingent of people who just basically file, review, and release the information with us. They can't do anything with that. If you sign anything, like if you are working with Collect or Enlets, you sign something anytime. We have this with all police employees, dispatchers, police officers. This information is sensitive and it pertains to your working conditions. You can't bring that home. You can't call a friend and say, hey, so-and-so got a ticket.
So they can't sell a database.
No,
They typically, like SiteStream loses it. If it doesn't match your car, they get rid of it. If you get a ticket, they'll keep it in there for a second offense or a third offense. But they typically have to get rid of the information within 30 days.
So they can't pass it off to an insurance company.
No.
it would actually that's be committing a felony if they do that. It would be misuse.
Okay.
We've seen a number of officers in the next couple, I was told that in Academy in 02, never run a personal plate for a favor, a friend or a favor. And you still see officers in 2026 getting arrested for that. You can't do that. And that goes for dispatchers. Even when we bring people in like an intern who might be in dispatch, they still have to go through a baseline level where they sign and do collect training. So that, hey, you might see police sensitive information. You cannot share this. Yeah.
Bob, Heather?
No, I've heard about the Middletown one, so I know how it works.
Good.
Good with it.
How many towns now are we up to that are doing this?
So I could tell you, I know, if you go on the SiteStream website, and again, I'm not pushing for them in any capacity because we've only met with them and one other. I'm just saying I did a little bit more research with them because I knew them. They are up to a number more. Weathersfield has signed with them. They're going to be using that on the, not the Berlin Turnpike, yes, sir, thank you, the Celestine. And I spoke with Rafael Medina, he's their chief. Spoke with Chris Perry, the chief of Dewington. They just did the presentation in front of their selectmen 2 nights ago. It's actually on YouTube. They're probably going to be using that as well. Stonington goes through them. Middletown has a separate vendor. I don't know who they're using. But again, all departments, all agencies who are trying these vendors go to different municipalities and they get to choose them based on what they think works best for theirs. Some of these are,
They brought this up in Enfield. Did they adopt that or did they rescind it?
So to answer your question, I think there are a little over a dozen. The first one to go live anywhere was Washington, small little town in Washington. They got huge revenues. I think they're up to a dozen, but the DOT has many applications. It was brought up before the Enfield Council. They presented it, the council met and said, don't ever talk about this again. Well, politics have changed over there because in Enfield, one party's in and they get angry and then for a couple of years they changed the entire party. So what their attitude about it now is different. But I think, I think it's, people watched it, the legislation was new and they watched a few of the towns do it and they're looking at some of the pitfalls and how to get through it easier. And it's growing. It's definitely growing.
So I'm going to pull up a specific slide here. Deputy, I think you had said that if we wanted you guys to start mapping out what this would look like, this is what we would ask you to do. So if I understood you correctly, you guys could mock up what your preliminary recommendation would be. And I'm thinking, my guess would be it would be near the schools. It would be on 140 and Newberry Road.
Rockville Road,
Rockville.
Very commonly 140 and Scannick.
So could we see the crash history and the speed history for those areas, the enforcement data, like all the stuff that's outlined there?
Absolutely. You can, anybody in town can go to the T2 site. You kind of keep that data there. They can just look it up themselves. But yes, we would provide all of that.
Would you guys mind doing that?
Done it. It might have already been done.
Oh, okay.
Maybe.
Yes, no, there's only a few sites in town that would even be worth it.
Yeah.
So. But yes, we could.
Right in front of my house. Kidding. Unless you're serious.
No, there wouldn't be the volume of traffic. I mean, we don't have anywhere in town where there's going to be this disproportionate to any ethnic group unless we put one like, unfortunately we wouldn't be putting one on Depot Street. I'm not speaking ill about that, but that's probably where the biggest concentration of ethnicities, we would say we're coming out of Mill Pond Village or something like that, but Depot would not satisfy the crash, the speed data or the traffic to get there. So we wouldn't consider it.
It would be interesting to see the crash and speed data and the enforcement data from 2025 relative to 2024 to see what the outage of the bridge traffic did in terms of rediverting traffic from away,
2024 to 2025, we had 2 less crashes. 2 or 3 less crashes in the whole town. So, but speeds were down.
Route 5 takes the lion's share of our accidents. I think that's just because of the congestion in the traffic lights.
Yeah.
And then obviously 5 and 140.
5 and 140, that intersection in particular is deadly. Okay.
But all of those concerns, they're all valid concerns. I think everybody's being tracked all the time and you try to mitigate it the best you can. But they're all valid concerns. And I want to reiterate from the chief and our deputy chief position, this is truly a community conversation. Whether you guys even pass it that far along is up to you, but this has to be decided by the community. And we can only list the benefits, the pros and the cons. You know, the cons being that there's fear of, you know, lack of a better term, government watching, Big Brother watching type of thing. But artificial intelligence now is going into grocery stores. All of these things are coming to play, and you're gonna have to just understand that that's happening everywhere you go.
It's actually an extremely good segue into the next thing we're going to talk about. Okay, so if you haven't heard what that layout would look like with that information, could you for the next meeting or the
Yes.
meeting after, so sometime in February?
Yes.
Okay. Anything else for the police leadership?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, so that brings us to a discussion of AI. This is something else that I had brought to the Board of Selectmen back before three of you took office, and I'll just introduce the concept a little bit. Artificial intelligence, I mean, everybody understands, I think, that artificial intelligence is here and here to stay. And it's about finding how government can use it to be adaptive and responsive to the needs of our constituents. There are vendors out there that provide AI solutions, and I wanted to introduce Mike LeBeau from Polymorphic, who works with Parth. Parth is the guy who came and did it last time. Just to explain a bit about what AI could look like for us if we were going to use it. This isn't to say that, I mean, and I explained to Mike when we talked ahead of time that if we decided to move forward, you know, we have to budget for it. We have to do the public procurement process. This isn't saying like, I want to go with Polymorphic, but I am saying I want to have a conversation with this group about what or how or if to integrate AI into our constituent service delivery. So with that, Mike, are you with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Not well. Mike, say something again.
Can you hear me now?
As well as we're going to.
That's just, is that all right? You can still hear me? Very quiet.
Yeah, but you're good. We've got the closed captioning on so we can see what you're saying.
All right, I'll try to speak louder. Hopefully you guys can hear me. Thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it. Just a quick background on myself while I pull my slide deck up here. Connecticut, born and raised. I'm in Sellington. I'd love to be on site with you guys today, but you can probably hear in my voice I have quite the cold, so it's probably better off I'm not in the office with you or in the room with you guys today. But Jason, council, excited to be here. Thank you for your time tonight. As Jason mentioned, there were some initial conversations with part of the CEO many months back, but I'm going to kind of give a brief background on the company, kind of go through the platform from a slide deck perspective, and then actually dive directly into a live demonstration of the product. It's actually going to be pulling data from your site. So it's going to be pulling some exciting material that's actually content that you guys can relate to. So yeah, I'm assuming you guys can see my screen.
Yeah, we fixed our audio problem too.
Okay, good. So you guys can hear me now. Perfect. All right. So let me full screen this here. Hold on. All right, cool. So to kind of give you a general background on, where we're at today, right? Over the last 10 years or so, the private sector has completely changed the customer experience. I guess you can blame this on companies like Amazon, maybe, with their 2-day delivery. And, here we are today with same-day delivery service, right? And then companies like Domino's Pizza, where they're literally providing a pizza tracker when you order a pizza online. Citizens these days are able to actually track where their pizza is, how it's being made, when it's being delivered, and so on. Right. So what that's done is kind of set the expectations, and the citizens are expecting now from local and county government, right? Where they expect the same kind of level of service from their local officials, quick results, immediate turnaround, status tracking, right? If they're putting in applications, regardless of what it may be, if it's a permit, if it's a request they're putting into their departments, right? They're expecting forms to be digital accessible, you know, on their iPhones, on their phones, whatever small devices they're on a daily occurrence, and then online self-service, right? As we know, this generation's much coming in these days is much younger. They want to do everything through their phones rather than call in or walk in, and that's kind of the service they expect today. So the platform we offer underneath Polymorphic, it's basically enhancing that customer experience, utilizing AI. That's anything from chatbots, which would basically live on your website, which we're going to show you here shortly, to voice AI. So this is calling in, getting those immediate answers to your questions, to our CRM and workflow solutions. This platform is essentially making information immediately accessible to your constituents, right? And ultimately getting answers they're looking for without knowing where to find it, right? On your website or which department to call. Our voice AI product is now kind of eliminating any menu options that may come up, right? Press 9 to go to the clerk's office, press 8 to go to Public Works, right? And if you guys have any hold time options, it's eliminating that completely. Most importantly, this is all 24/7, right? Our CRM workflow solution now replaces any PDF applications. Today I go to your website. A lot of the online forms you guys have are PDFs. So our workflow platform would essentially replace that, where now residents can go online, fill this out instead of filling it out today like they do in person, or have to print it out at home. They fill this out with ink, have to print it off at their home, or email it directly to your departments or walk it in, right? With our solution, it's kind of expediting the entire process, again, all online for that constituent, and also allowing your departments at the same time to collaborate, work internally through our platform on these applications, set up multiple steps and so on. And of course, this is all recorded. So you guys are able to see, you know, what your constituents are putting in for requests, right? And the complete background of everything that's coming into the system. So why AI? It's 24/7 resident support, right? So if I have a question to ask, again, instead of navigating to your website, I can't find what I'm looking for, I can throw in a text in the chat bot, which will show you again here what it looks like in a second. I can call into City Hall and get immediate answers to the questions I'm asking. So it's 24/7. It's essentially going to reduce that resident calling in. Again, can't find what they're looking for, so they got to bounce around the department trying to find an answer. It's also going to reduce walk-ins. Multilingual. It supports 75 different languages in both platforms. From a compliance standpoint, a lot of the PDFs you guys have today, that's not ADA compliant. What our chat and what our voice does, it'll capture that data, provide it back to any individuals seeking this compliance, right, in a compliant format. We also offer staff tools. So think on the flip side here, now your staff can utilize the chat feature or the product that we offer internally for training information, looking up documents, right, from an internal standpoint, and then guided applications. So a lot of our workflow applications will correct errors right before they're sent into your staff to evaluate, to only send back because there's a lot of errors on those applications. Our applications utilize AI to kind of go through and say, hey, this may be inaccurate, right? If you're filling out a pet license and let's say you go to apply your corgi and you say your corgi weighs 200 pounds, our AI pre-review will say, based on your breed of dog, I kind of highly doubt that your corgi probably weighs 200 pounds. So why don't you go back and make sure that to correct that error before you send it into our team. So why polymorphic? It's an AI built just for government. Just in the past couple of months, we've broke over 100 clients throughout the US. This includes 300 different departments utilizing many of our solutions. Our data quality, we're only sharing information and sources that you provide, right? A lot of people get scared of AI because they think, well, this is going to go out on the World Wide Web, it's going to capture data from maybe an East Windsor out in England somewhere or over there in Europe. No, this is data that you're feeding it, that's providing it back to your constituents. right? So I know that's always a fear with AI that's going to what we call do some hallucinations and learn and provide back data that's completely inaccurate. That's completely not how our system's built. It's providing the data that, again, you feed it and you're providing back to your residents. Our implementation support engineering team, it's all done in-house. You guys would have a dedicated customer success individual who would be handholding you guys all the way up to your live support and engineering team. I always like to brag about this. We're based out of New York City. We have 12 MIT developers. They're brilliant. They bring this product to the next level. So I know there's a lot of AI solutions and platforms out there, but I can't boast enough about our dev team. Our integrations, these are always growing. We're now partnered with Esri. This just happened last month. We utilize their GIS. So now we're incorporating GIS into all of our platforms. So if you want to look up trash pickup, when's my trash pickup day, we can literally tap into any GIS data you have and provide the constituents back that data utilizing GIS integrations. Utilities, CRM, work orders, the list goes on, but we integrate with a lot of systems you guys probably have in place today because we're friendly. We're not a platform where, hey, it's a one and one all. Security compliance is very, very up to speed. We're HIPAA compliant, SOC 2 compliant, some of the most compliant platform out there, right? If you wanted to collect critical data, we work with health departments and so on. Not saying what I really want to get into that, but our compliance and security is very, very high level. And then one thing that's really unique, what Polymorphic offers, we do pilot programs, right? I work in the New England area. AI is very new to this area, of course. So there's a lot of individuals, a lot of towns, cities I work with who are very skeptical about getting their feet wet within the AI environment. So we do offer pilot programs to say, hey, you want to give this test trial of the chat a go for a few months? We're completely open to that. So we're willing to work with you guys. So they kind of it's a little bit of background on the company. I'm going to dive right into the product and give you a live demonstration of what the chat looks like, what the voice sounds like, right? And then kind of give you a quick look at the workflow product. But do you guys have any questions before I dive into that?
So far.
All right, so what I'm going to show you from a quick glance here. So what this chat, where it would live, right? It would be essentially on your website. And this is what I pulled up here this is Newport, Rhode Island. Right, so today, again, your residents would go to your website and kind of try to triage through departments or a site map or wherever and try to find the information they're looking for. But with the chat bot available, they can just throw whatever they wanted in here and essentially find that data they're looking for, right then and there without having to navigate and essentially get frustrated and pick up the phone and call you guys. You guys have the complete ability to brand the chatbot, right? We have some pretty funny ones I can get into later, but you guys can do branding behind this and so on. Newport decided not to, but this is essentially what it looked like on your website. What I'm going to show you here next is a full screen look at the chat. And again, I set this up beforehand. So this is today polling content from your website that's, of course, available to the public. It's not pulling anything else, right? I can feed it documents. I can input GIS data in the back end so it can essentially ask questions. But right now, this screen you're looking at is pulling data from your website. So I'm going to do a little bit of live demonstration here, ask it some questions. What I'm also going to do after this demonstration is share this link with you guys and share the phone number we're going to get into next. And you guys can test it out on your own and kind of play around with it and get a feel for it. But let's throw some questions at it. So let's say I want to move my business here. You know, what do I need to do? Right, so it returns results pretty quickly. So in this case, it's kind of going through contact the economic dev team, right? It also shows resources. So it shows where it's pulling from. Most cases, it looks like these are just URLs. It could be pulling from documents. So it's pulling from multiple resources here. Let's throw in where is the transfer station? Help if I could spell.
Good answer to that one.
Yeah.
Spit on that one.
I'm gonna say Enfield.
Oh, Cape Shell Road.
What does it say?
All right, so looks like in this case, you got 9 Shoham Road, and it pulled that information from documents in this case. Let's do, what time is DPW office open until on Fridays?
That's information I don't like people to know.
All right, so it looks like 7 a.m. to 3:30. And again, it's pointing right back to Public Works site there. And I can click this information, it's gonna pull where it grabbed this content from. Right, so some examples there. Any questions on that?
Is this data, is this like our current live data?
Yes.
Is this the same link that you gave us last night?
Yeah.
I had less than that. I had some interesting results when I asked it a few questions last
Yeah,
night.
there's, it does point out that there's some pages on the website that need to be updated.
Well,
Like
I asked it to provide me with the latest minutes from the Planning and Zoning Commission. It gave me November 9, 2022. And I asked it to show me every time the word Baker showed up in Board of Selectmen meetings from 2018 to present. It gave me 3 dates in December of 2025. And then I asked it, show me, I asked it, how would I open a building permit? And it did bring me to the building department and, and a description that looks a lot like one of your other ones. And then I said, okay, take me to where I can input the permit. And it took me to a login, but it wasn't the permit link login.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I think that it points to, I don't know, maybe I'm not 100% sure where the problem is, but certainly on our side, we have a lot of probably garbage data that would be served up. But on the other side, some of this was just simply not searching what is out there, what I know is out there correctly.
Right. So in that case, what happens during implementation, right, is we kind of go through a lot of these test questions where you guys have a week or two to kind of go through, throw questions at it, clean up the data. It's very common for, I only scraped your website probably weeks ago. So it's only capturing data one time, and a lot of that documentation, you mentioned a lot of documents haven't come up, could not be included. Right. So part of the implementation would be to clean up a lot of these, hey, these aren't returning types of results. And we have scripts and so on that we go through with our project team that kind of make it more accurate, I guess I could say.
I have a question. I guess my question is based on everything you just put in there. How is that any different than us going to Google and asking those questions? Because all that information would show up anyways.
So if you search in Google, it's going to pull up in East Windsor and somewhere else. It's not going to know that you're pulling up East Windsor, Connecticut.
Well,
And if
I
you
would,
define,
I would put
sorry.
East Windsor, Connecticut.
Yep. So if you put East
Right.
Windsor, Connecticut, does it know to just go through your website, or is it pulling resources from the rest of the internet?
Well, you would see off to the side because it shows where you get it from.
Right. So the problem with Google uses its own built-in AI, right? And there's a lot of platforms that do the same thing. What happens with that, and I'll use a prime example, right? Over the summer, I was taking my kids to lake compounds, and I said, hey, when are the fireworks happening? Right. And I threw that into Google, and it gave me a time, and I drove out there, and the fireworks were not happening. What happened there was a hallucination. A lot of people were asking the same thing, and the way that a lot of these AI engines work, like ChatGPT, Google, which utilizes OpenAI as well, is it sees a lot of the results and it kind of tries to learn off of this. So it ends up providing what we call hallucinations, where the information is not accurate. So if you go to Google, some of that information could be correct, but a lot of the times, or not a lot, but sometimes that information is completely inaccurate. From our platform, you're also able to remove data. You're also able to adjust data. You're also able to log. So you're seeing everything that's captured. everything I just searched for right now in the back end, you're able to have a report that says what kind of information was being requested. And you can give this back to your departments and say, hey, maybe this information needs to be more broadcasted, right? A lot of people are asking for hours of operation for DPW or other departments. Maybe we need to have this more present on the website.
What are we talking about for cost?
So this is just the chatbot piece. The platform model, which includes chat, voice, which is unlimited voice as well, and unlimited workflows, is about $2 per resident. That's an annual cost, zero implementation. If you want to do in a staged approach, the chatbot itself would be about $6,000 per year. Again, no setup cost.
So we're talking about $23,000, Jason? We got about 11,000 people.
Oh, yeah, it's 23,000. I'm not,
Yeah.
I would do the chatbot.
What?
Actually, you know what? I haven't even heard the voice
Yeah.
option. Can you demo that?
Let's give it a go.
Like I had a full conversation with ChatGPT in my car this morning.
Let's give it a go.
Hello, you have reached an automated attendant at the town of East Windsor. How may we assist you today?
Can you tell me if the town offices are open on Martin Luther King Day?
The town offices will be closed on Martin Luther King Day in observance of the holiday. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
How do I change my mailing address?
To change your mailing address for real estate or personal property in East Windsor, you need to fill out a change of mailing address form and send it to the assessor's office. For motor vehicles, you must update your address with the Department of Motor Vehicles, as the town receives that information directly from them. Would you like more details or help finding the form?
Can you text me this information?
I found a page with the mailing address change form and details that I can text to you. Would you like me to send this information to your phone now?
Yes.
The information and form for changing your mailing address have been sent to your phone. Is there anything else I can assist you with today?
No, that's it.
Thank you for calling. Have a great day.
So that's if you guys are able to hear that, it's the voice side of it.
Yeah. That's what he said, right?
Yep. So again, I'll provide that phone number you guys can test out against the chat. Oh, I'm sorry. You guys hear me?
Yeah, just a quick sidebar correction.
Sorry.
I don't know. Mike, did we lose you?
No, I'm still here. I thought you mentioned you guys are having a side conversation over there. I wasn't sure if you went off mic.
No. We
Forget
there
it.
were the moment has passed.
All right. So you guys got a taste of the sound of the voice piece here. Last item I got to show you here is workflow. Right. So what we've gone ahead and done is we've taken one of your PDFs you have on your site today, right? Change for mailing address form. That was something I asked in the Voice AI product. So what we've gone ahead and done is digitized it, right? We made it into our workflow product. So if I begin new here, you kind of get to see the experience. Right. So it's basic form. What it also does is conditional fields. So you can see here, depending on what I select, I can have conditional fields pop up. So if I want to do this, let's add in for real estate, search for East Windsor. All right, add in a new address change. Again, search for East Windsor. Add my applicant information there. I can sign this, save signature. Next, can mark as complete. It's a simple online form. So what we've also included here, which I'm not able to demo today, is what we call AI review. And I kind of mentioned this earlier on in the conversation, is we can put AI fields in there to say, hey, if you're licensing your dog, right, and it's a corgi that weighs 200 pounds, it's going to flag that, right? Same thing for if you have applicants putting in, hey, I want to build a fence in my property. It can actually utilize and link up to GIS data to say, hey, based on your zoning information, you can't technically build a fence in your property. You got to call this phone number. Right. So that's how it leverages AI from our workflow standpoint. Right. So that's the user side, the citizen or the constituent side of putting in a form. How the staff side would be. So if I go in here and look at cases, right? If, let's say I put in a case and that was just for changing my mailing address. But if I have workflows for submitting a request for to fill a pothole or a dog license or whatever it may be, and I'm assigned to it, when I log in here, this is going to kind of be my to-do list, right? So I can go in here and kind of see, hey, Mike LeBeau just filled this out. Looks like he's changing his property type for real estate. Here's his location information. I can assign individuals to it if I need to. I can report back on it and so on. I have a record within the system to look at. So it's kind of a quick look at the workflow back end of it. Any questions?
What softwares do you integrate with?
Pretty long list. The Microsoft, Esri, I mean, the list goes on. There's probably a few dozen different types of applications. If you're talking work orders, we integrate with like platforms like CityWorks, which is now on Trimble. We also integrate with CRM systems like QAlert or SeeClickFix. I mean, the list goes on. We're actively building out integrations. We have utility companies as well that we're building out billing systems wise. We integrate with Tyler Munis. So, I mean, I can send over that list. It's pretty lengthy, but having an open API, we're very integration friendly, right? And we know that we have to kind of work with other vendors. So, you guys are all on the same page, not having to juggle applications.
So Munis is definitely one of the ones that we use. What about QDS? Do you know if you integrate with QDS?
That doesn't ring a bell. Can you give me background on that product?
Quality data services.
Yeah, Quality Data Services.
That one I'm not aware of.
How about Permit Link?
Permit Link?
Yeah.
That's another one I'm not too familiar with.
How about MyRec?
Another one I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
Vision.
Vision,
Vision sounds familiar, yes.
New Vision.
Does not sound familiar.
Okay, thank you.
I think the important thing to mention though is all those applications you just mentioned, if they do have an open API, right, which means if they talk to other systems, like we have an open API, we encourage to communicate between systems. It's very easy for our MIT dev team, which I bragged about earlier on, to build out these integrations between the systems. So,
Other questions or comments for Mike? So if we were to do a pilot, how long is that term and what are our obligations at the end of the pilot?
so we're open to do a pilot, a 3-month pilot for the chat feature. There's no obligations on your end at the end of the 3 months. If you say, hey, we're not satisfied with this, the results aren't returning, there's no obligations to move forward.
And what type of analytics would you be able to provide at the end of the pilot?
You'll have access to the logs. You'll be able to see all the interactions that are taking place. You'll actually get reports of, what are the most asked questions? What are the most departments that are being asked for? So you have complete analytics, whether it's, again, kind of the reports that I mentioned, where those questions are being triaged, how many results are being returned, and so on. You'll have full access to that.
If I were to call you and began asking questions and was not satisfied with the response I was getting, how hard would it be for me to get you to transfer me to a real person?
Good question.
So it's actually,
That is.
it's funny because I call Eversource, right? And it's just like I'm almost yelling at it at times to transfer me to an agent. And our AI utilizes and understands that when someone's getting frustrated over the phone, it would say, it'll automatically prompt them saying, do you want us to transfer you to an individual? Right? So it not only does that, but
Frustrated do you have to get?
The F-bomb.
well, I guess I jumped to a worst case scenario. But if I use the voice AI and say, hey, I want to talk to an individual, it's gonna immediately go off. It's immediately gonna go back to your phone line. You can also set triggers in place to say, hey, I have a code enforcement issue or I have a question for a building permit. You can have triggers in the back end to say, if anyone's calling about a building permit, this needs to go to this individual, this phone number here immediately. So you can set unlimited triggers in place depending on what that caller is asking for. It can immediately offline to go to a real phone number.
Thank you.
How many towns or cities go from doing the pilot to actually go ahead with it? What's the percent rate for success or?
I don't have the actual percent rate, but I can tell you it's very high.
And how many towns or cities in Connecticut are you right now not in the pilot program with, but with regular like implementation?
We don't have any in Connecticut just yet. They just brought me on board for the Northeast area.
How many pilots do you have going on right now in the Northeast?
We have the closest to you. I'll mention is Longmeadow, Mass, who's utilizing our voice AI for their public works department. They handle over 100 calls a day. They're rolling out their implementation right now. In New England, I mentioned Newport. They use our chat. They use our voice AI as well, 24/7. Maine, we have a couple. Another one we're launching, Somerville, Mass. There's a handful, about a half a dozen so far in New England.
Okay. And then as far as the chat goes, is it just like if we wanted a representative, I know it's a 24/7 you can call, but if you call in the middle of the night, obviously you're not going to get an attendant, correct?
Correct. In that case, just go to your phone system and whether that goes to
You can leave a
voicemail.
message. Okay.
Yep.
I just didn't know if it got sent somewhere else and you had other people pick up.
So it can either go to your phone system, right? Or you can have it actually go into our workflow system. So if you wanted to utilize our workflow system, it can actually triage that, take the voicemail, interpret it in a workflow product, and then know who to send it to from there. This at 24/7.
And the last question I have is what do you say to individuals when I know there's a lot of talk about AI and how much energy it creates to actually use AI. So what is your stance? What's the company's stance on that?
Meaning,
Meaning like the amount of energy it takes to use AI in general.
Basically, what's the ESG footprint?
that, to be honest with you, I don't really, I don't know that answer.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So I'll tell you where I could see this having been useful was at Public Works when we didn't have an admin there for 2.5 months. That would have been useful. Any department that we have with only 2 employees in it, or with employees that are on vacation, that would be useful. One of the frustrations that I have is when people reach out to town government and they get nobody in the office or nobody on the phone. Or no email back. That is very difficult for me to say is okay. So this is at least another step of providing some sort of interface with our information for the public. Do you have any other questions?
Just one comment. What I often find when you call someplace that has a system like this, nobody ever answers the phone anymore. They all defer to the automated systems. And that That could be a problem when you're trying to have, or, again, philosophy, but we're in an age where people are increasingly isolated. And I like talking to somebody when I call somewhere. And if this is going to discourage people from picking up their phones, I don't know as it's a real positive in that regard.
We hear that quite often. In some cases, we have a lot of clients, and I mentioned Somerville, Mass earlier. They have a call center. They have a high intake of calls. They're keeping it that way where during business hours, things are as usual. People are picking up the phone and answering questions. But for after hours, they're utilizing our services because they have nobody there.
Okay.
Right? So you see in some cases where, in some cases it's only deployed for after hours they answer phone calls. In other cases, they kind of utilize their voice AI as a front line to knock down simple questions that could be answered through AI. Right? In other cases, they're continuing to do what they today and they only use it for after hours.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Mike? Appreciate your time. Thanks very much for the introduction and the overview. We're, as you know, we're in budget now, so we'll, I guess have further conversations as that process moves forward.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna take it. Yeah. Excuse me. Next up is a discussion of the selectman member for the ad hoc committee. So we have two members that are interested. Heather is interested and Rick is interested. So what I did is I looked at the available seats, and it turns out that there are two seats that are available. There is a board of selectmen member and there is an at-large member. So as long as you guys are amenable, you can both do it.
That's fine with me.
All right. The Board of Selectmen appoints the Board of Selectmen member. The ad hoc committee itself appoints the at-large member. So that's what we would do. The next time they met, both we'd seat the second person and we're good to go. So I asked you to be the Board of Selectmen member. Heather, I know you've got support to get on there from the at-large seat. Does that sound reasonable?
I mean, yeah, as long as there's support for that on the other side. Yeah, that's fine. I'm disappointed though. I'll tell you, I'm really disappointed because I did ask when we initially started this. When we got on, I went in your office and I asked to be the liaison. And it just bothers me that you misremembered maybe that and you asked Rick. So that bothers me. So I just want to make sure you know that. So yes.
So would you not like to be an at-large member?
No, I'll take that.
Okay.
Yep.
May I have a motion then?
Make a motion to make Rick the Board of Selectmen member and of the ad hoc committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, this is a piece of housekeeping budget business. It is a requirement in the charter that any agency of the town receiving budget funds has to provide an audit. It has been our longstanding practice that we waive that, which is also allowed. That we waive that for the Broadbrook Library Association because the appropriation that they get is relatively small in relation to what the cost of the audit would be afterwards. And it doesn't make a lot of sense to throw half of their grant in audit costs. So what we've done for 15 years, many years, is by a vote of the Board of Selectmen opted to waive the audit for the Broadbrook Library Association. And the request was to do the same again this year.
Will we waive the audit requirement for the Broadbrook Library Association?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
I just ask like, what's the, I guess, can you just go through like the oversight and how that goes through? Like, I know it's under the budget. Is there any kind of review on that?
Yeah,
Okay,
as part of our budget process.
okay, and that just, can you just explain that?
So the budget process, the letters go out, budgets are due by, in most cases, New Year's Eve. Then Amy and I meet with all the department heads and the agencies that are requesting it, including meeting with Paul just yesterday about his submission. And then once I make my budget recommendations on a line by line, it comes to the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen meets with anybody that they decide they want to meet with. And you can ask any questions you want about anything at all. You know, what are your circulation numbers last year? When's the last time the roof got reshingled? Anything you want to ask. And use that to inform your decision-making as part of the budget process. Then after it goes to us, it goes to the Board of Finance for exactly the same process.
So can Amy do a review? Like, can Amy review their books? Because
She asked for one, didn't she? Didn't she, or was that, no, Felicia she asked for. She's not going to do a forensic audit on them.
No.
That's not her.
No, I know that, but I'm just saying in general, like, is there, I guess, I'm just wondering, does anybody just look at the books? Just.
So Paul gives us his expense summary. I'm speaking for you. Jump in here when you want to. Paul gives us his expense summary for the year, which memory serves was almost $41,000 in the proposed year. Our grant to them is 26,000.
Okay,
And then he lays out on a weekly, monthly, and annual basis what he expects to pay for internet subscription and heat and
Okay.
subscriptions and
okay.
all
I
that
was
stuff.
just wondering, like, if that, I understood the budget process. I just didn't know, like, is there any kind of oversight and the grant money that goes over to them? Sounds.
It's a grant. We don't have control over what they do with it. You know, so if he wants to spend $26,000 on lotto tickets, good for him, but it'll be the last year he gets the money.
This is Still be the last time I get the money.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to understand the questions.
It's the same thing that happens with the Warehouse Point Library too.
Yep.
Of course, one of the issues is the audit has to be a CPA by statute. You don't have an option and they don't come cheap.
No, they don't.
Way back, many years ago, when we had some in town,
Mhm.
we used to get that done
Okay,
free. That's long gone. They're all left town. We don't have one CPA in this town,
okay.
which I find to be sad.
There's gotta be somebody. who's a CPA.
I will tell you, I did my research.
Okay, so that's the overview. As I said, this is a relatively banal thing that we've done for a very long time.
Not the years we didn't get any money.
Yeah, but that's got to be almost 15 years ago now.
No, count on that. Whatever, the point being is, you're correct. We've been doing it recently because it needs to be done correctly.
So has a motion been made, Melissa? Yes, and seconded?
Yes.
Okay. So with no further discussion, I'm assuming there's no further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Tax refunds.
I'd make a motion, we approve the tax refunds in the amount of $1,440.22.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I'd ask that we postpone agenda item 8G until after executive session.
So move.
There a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on now to selectmen's reports. I did one. Over the past several weeks, Amy O'Toole and I have met extensively with department heads and boards and commissions and agencies that are seeking consideration for inclusion in this year's town budget. That has taken quite a bit of time. But now that we're done, as of tomorrow, we'll be done meeting with all the requesting entities. And so I will work with her to frame out what my recommendation is and it will be provided to you guys on February 5th. I'll be doing my budget presentation on February 12th. One of the things that I've done that's a little bit different this year, which will apply only to you. And there's a sheet that comes in your budget books that has the approved budget from the current year and the department's request. We're adding a new column to show what the first selectman's recommendation is, because what we had constantly dealt with was, well, the numbers in my book don't show what the budget you're putting forward. Well, now you're going to be able to see better what the flow of that financial data, financial recommendations are. So it'll be a little bit more transparent without being wholly different from the way it has been in the past. There were a couple of other things over the last couple of weeks, and it's been a while since we met, but there are a couple of other things that I want to bring to your attention. First of all, the continued hearing for the Siting Council regarding the gravel pit solar expansion has been continued again to January 27th. I want to thank and recognize the East Windsor residents who have appeared as parties in that case. Their participation has really been thoughtful and well-informed and hopefully impactful. The town remains engaged in this matter and continues to oppose the expansion, including through the engagement of legal counsel and expert witnesses. And should these efforts be unsuccessful at the Siting Council, we'll come back here and discuss any and all reasonable next steps that are at our disposal. The ad hoc committee examining the potential school reconstruction and renovation projects is continuing to do its work. On January 7th, the committee began to review a draft communications plan that will engage the broader community. While we're still waiting for the confirmation of the numbers that we will need in order to make sure the project pencils out in terms of state reimbursement levels, we do think that it's time to start engaging the community in a more meaningful way. Ultimately, once the appropriate reimbursement rate has been secured, it's the voters of the town that are going to have to make the decision, and we want to start showing them what's been done, what the thought process is, and what comes next. The Charter Revision Commission is also making steady progress in its review of the town charter. They had a pretty long meeting on Monday night where they reviewed sections 1 through 7 of the charter. They're going to be going through sections 8 through 11 at their next meeting, which is whatever 2 weeks from this Monday was, 26th. And what they're doing is as they're going section by section and subsection by subsection, they're flagging those areas that they want to have further discussion on. And they're parking those areas that, you know, they really don't need to revisit. So while they went through about half the charter on Monday evening, that's not to say that they're halfway done with their work. Quite the opposite of that. They're still building out what their work plan is going to be. So as their work continues, though, anybody from the public is welcomed and encouraged to attend their meetings and see what they're doing. They have public participation as part of their process. They were pretty amenable to engaging with Rick and I anyway about questions that they had or clarifications that they need, and I expect that will continue quite a bit as they move forward. Looking ahead, on January 30th, the Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, the Council of Small Towns, and the Capital Region Council of Governments will jointly host an informational session on Special Session Public Act 25-1, which is the housing legislation adopted by the General Assembly. That legislation is expected to have a wide-ranging impact on municipalities across the state, and many communities are still trying to assess what those implications are going to be. The opportunity to hear from organizations like CCM and CROG about their interpretation and how they're able to assist us is going to be helpful as we start trying to figure out, you know, how we do the things that we're going to have to do. Finally, many residents in Broadbrook have lately noticed the recently completed sidewalk project, and we've gotten a lot of really positive feedback about that. So building on that success, we were approached by CROG as to whether the town would be interested in submitting a LOTSIP application for some sort of a LOTSIP eligible project. So we've been workshopping a couple of additional sidewalk expansion projects, 2 of which would be in Broadbrook, 1 would be in Warehouse Point. We're able to submit 2 of those, and really the consideration is going to be where can we get the total cost covered by a LOTSIP grant instead of having East Windsor residents have to pay for it. So I'm hoping to be able to bring back to the board on February 5th an update on what those proposals look like. But what we're trying to do, just like is Deputy left. So as the deputy alluded to in his conversation, this ties into the whole Vision Zero mission that DOT has adopted. They've made funds available to try and implement the Vision Zero strategy, and walkability and access to public amenities all tie in quite nicely with what those grants are going to be. So we are able to get two for sidewalk projects. We can get two $1.5 million projects if we can get them penciled out so that they are doable. But we're working with Beta Consultant Group through CROG to put that application together so that we're gonna have something that might score enough to pass. I appreciate that CROG reached out to us and said, there's money available. Does East Windsor want to apply for something? And my response was, yes, we'll let you know what. And so they've been great partners so far. That's what I have for now. I'll turn to Rick.
Also went to the Charter Revision Commission, impressed by the approach they're taking and the seriousness with which they're approaching their task. Also this week went to the Arts and Entertainment, Arts and Culture Committee, the Police Commission, and Economic Development. And the thing that I come away from all of that with is that we're fortunate to have such dedicated individuals serving our community on all these various boards. And each one is very much engaged in the issues that they're charged with dealing with. The Police Commission had some really interesting and lengthy discussions last night on future of the department, and the Arts and Culture has a number of projects that they're working on, either in the planning stages or the implementation stage. Economic Development is working to modernize the tax abatement strategy and ordinance and bring it up to date. So it's been a busy week, but altogether pretty interesting. Nice to see they're all working together, progressing.
Thank you. Bob.
Yeah, on Monday night, January 5th, I attended the Warehouse Point Fire District Commission meeting. Before that meeting, 6:30 PM, I believe it started, they held a public vote for a $60,000 appropriation for security camera upgrades to the headquarters, Station 138 and Station 238. Vote passed unanimously. So good for them to get that done and get started. On that evening, Chief Barton couldn't attend because there was multiple accidents. I don't know if you were aware, it was Monday night, but it probably took me about over a half an hour to get from my house to the, I spent about 20 minutes just sitting on South Main Street. It was that bad, but anyway, of course they were up busy. But even though Chief Barton wasn't there and couldn't give us his report, I did get the call log from Chairman Safford. And she was able to let me know that they responded to in December 112 calls for service, 84 of which were EMS calls. So very busy. And that's all I've got.
Oh.
Wetlands Commission did not meet this month because of no work to do. So I haven't had any meetings since our last meeting, so I yield back my time.
I, on Monday, was able to go to the Parks and Rec Commission meeting. That was my first time going there. And they reviewed their budget. They talked about user fees for this upcoming year. Residents will, the fees doesn't look like they're going up, and residents will not have a fee this year. There were several little events that are going to be coming up. You were asking about community events. Panther Plunge is going to be February 28th, which is a Saturday.
Put that together, right?
Not me.
Uh-huh. And then I'll go watch. There's the Community Valentines, which I did not know did that, but they collect Valentine cards and they disperse them amongst people in town at different locations. Last year, they had over 659 cards and they're aiming for over 700. It would be nice if maybe, I don't know if you guys have a spot here where people can drop them off too. I don't,
They need to be aggregated at the community center.
okay. I didn't know if we could do them here and then bring them over there, but regardless, think that's a great thing that they have. There you have a workshop for grades K through 4 for social emotional wellness. And that starts February 5th. Desserts around the world. Again, those are for children, students at Bradbrook School. They also have a chess class for students at the school, at Bradbrook, and they also have mad science. There's a lot of things going on over there. I was really impressed with, everything that they do provide us. I was not able to go to the planning and zoning meeting on Tuesday, although I did see a couple posts that people were kind of happy with turnout. I do need to read the meeting minutes, just to kind of get an idea of what's going on. So,
The tiny subdivision was rejected.
okay,
That's,
that's what I read. I just,
Not a subdivision, it's a zoning change.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it effectively killed the Depot Street project.
No, it didn't.
It's dead.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Time B. It's temporary.
Next time, I can go with that.
All right, public participation. This is the second opportunity for members of the public to address the board. I'll again first ask if there's anybody here. There's nobody online, so I'll just ask if there's anybody here.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Well, Anderson, 89 Main Street. Okay, Mr. Baker brought up a very good point on the difficulties of the system, bringing up appropriate documents.
Yeah, that was a bust.
I will tell you that many documents available online have not been OCR'd, optical character recognition. Some of them are skewed. They cannot be read by any system. I find a lot of things that I get, attachments to agendas and things. I have to run it through ACR so I can search text. If you can't search the text in a PDF, then no system will ever be able to see it. So it's just a picture at that point and it's useless. So that is something that ought to be addressed over in the operation of the town, that PDF documents should be OCR'd prior to posting. That way they're text searchable for anybody. Now, some of them are. I'm just saying that there's considerable number that are not in various times. It's not consistent. I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but that is a process that is mandatory for stored documents to make them useful.
Okay, your point is well taken. We're doing a website migration now, and we have in our IT submission recommended funds for specifically that. It is mandatory, but it's not mandatory for municipalities yet.
No,
We're going to be ahead of it.
it's mandatory to make it useful. I'm not saying it's mandatory to be done.
It's going to be mandatory to be done next year. I mean, we have to do it. Your
Good.
point's well taken.
Okay, very good, because that'll make a big difference in a company like that trying to demonstrate something. Because if the document can't be searched, there's nothing they can do. They can't bring it up. Okay, there you go. Have a good time.
Thank you. Is there other public participation? Yes, sir. Name and address, please.
Richard Tuller, 412 Canyon Ridge Drive. Just on the subject of the traffic cameras, it sounds like something that you're going to continue to look at. It's just something I do urge you to continue to look at. Deputy Chief Murphy says since they set up their new website, 95% of the complaints have been on traffic. I've been going to the police commission meetings for like 2-3 years now. And even before that, Chief Carl, Deputy Chief Murphy, they kept saying, number one complaint in town is traffic. I don't talk to a lot of people in town, but people I do talk to love to complain about traffic. Especially at a time for years, it seems like the police department has had challenges coming up to full staffing. This seems like a way to be a force multiplier to do more with the limited staffing that they have. I asked about this subject, I think, at the October Police Commission meeting. And I think Chief Carl, I hadn't heard anything since the presentation with the vendor some time ago. I think Chief Carl said he was holding back a little, bringing it forward again. So this is in his words. East Windsor wasn't like an early adopter. Let the other towns work out some of the problems first. Perhaps not all the problems, but some of the problems. So I hope you continue to look at it.
Thank you very much. Other public comment? Yes, sir. Name and address.
Tom Buckley, Kings Court, Broadbrook. Is there any possibility the monies for the sidewalks they've been doing, they could put a small sidewalk out in the back here? Because when I get out, I have to walk into the parking lot and come around all the way and then hit for the main door to come into the back, whereas normally you come out in your car, you go to the front, you walk onto the sidewalk and you walk across. Same possibility they could look into that and see if it's feasible.
I'm not sure I'm following, but I'm happy to take a walk with you when we break for executive session if you want to show me.
Yeah, well, this immediate parking lot out here, they all park this way. And I ended up walking on the grass to get to because to go all around into the parking lot and come back in again to get to that door. It makes it a little more, and in wintertime, I've got snow and ice there. It makes it a little more difficult. Food for thought.
Any other public comment? Courtney, I don't want to leave you out. Okay. Then lost my agenda, but I'm pretty sure we will have an executive session. Yeah, I would ask for a motion to go into executive session to include attorney Laura Cardillo and Helen Hutz. Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are in executive session at 9:13. Pause. All right, it's 9:48. We're out of executive session. We'll take up agenda item 8G, vote on tax settlements discussed in executive session. Is there a motion?
Make a motion to authorize the town to settle the tax settlements between LLC Partnership versus the town of East Windsor and Maine 4 LLC versus the town of East Windsor.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. No further business come before the board. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
Moved.
Is there a second?
And
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned at 9:49.
do you want these back?